The murder of Allie KOSTIAL. Allie KOSTIAL's body was found at a lakeside campsite on July 20th, 2019. She was a student at the University of Mississippi, excited for her upcoming year of study. She was going to be a senior and no doubt have experiences that would stay with her for life. She was planning to head the student golf club while teaching yoga and Pilates, and she would also finish her degree and get her marketing major. But that was all put to an end by one of her classmates, a man she occasionally dated named Brandon Thiesfeld. Brandon is now going to spend the rest of his life in prison for first-degree murder. In the early hours of July 20th, Brandon drove Allie to Sardis Lake, shot her several times, and then left her to die by herself at a picnic area. When you hear why Brandon took away Allie's precious life, you're going to want to scream. Prosecutors said in court that Allie told him she might be pregnant. She sent him a picture of an inconclusive pregnancy test and said she wanted to talk. Brandon replied he couldn't become a father at the age of 22 because it would ruin his life, and he wanted her to get rid of the baby. Over the months that followed, the relationship deteriorated. She wanted to meet him in person to discuss the potential pregnancy, but he didn't want anything to do with it. So, he decided to end it himself. He drove to his father's home in Texas, took his dad's Glock 22, and did something he could never come back from. If he thought a baby would ruin his life, what did he think a murder would do? And it was all because he didn't want to have a baby with a beautiful, caring spirit like Allie KOSTIAL. Number 9. The killing of Lauren McCluskey. Lauren McCluskey was failed by her university. She was a student at the University of Utah in 2018 when she began having issues with her ex-boyfriend, Melvin Sean Rowland. By issues, we mean she was being stalked and abused. She and her friends contacted campus officials over 20 separate times to report what was happening, and they never did anything. She was basically begging for help, pleading with the university authorities to stop Melvin before he did something to her. But they didn't. They ignored her cries for help, and Melvin shot and killed the innocent 21-year-old senior on October 22nd. All because she had called things off with him after learning he was a registered sex offender and had lied about his age. 2 years after this unspeakable tragedy, the president of the university, Ruth Watkins, finally admitted they made a mistake. Watkins admitted that the administration on campus did not properly handle Lauren's complaints and that her death was 100% preventable. In the wake of this terrible attack and deep neglect on behalf of the university, they have agreed to pay $13.5 million to Lauren's family. Number 8. Tracy Pauls and MANUEL TABOADA. The bodies of Tracy Pauls and MANUEL TABOADA were discovered near the campus of the University of Florida on August 28, 1990. They were found murdered just 2 days after the discovery of 3 female students who had been killed and then mutilated near the campus. It was pretty clear to authorities that a serial killer was on the loose. He was killing young people studying at the university, then leaving their desecrated corpses in lewd positions before fleeing into the night. The Gainesville student community was in uproar. Everyone was scared to leave their houses at night. It was a troubling time for all. The police knew they needed to catch this guy, and they needed to catch him now. Over 75 state and federal agents launched a massive investigation, and Florida's governor provided an extra 50 state troopers. Their dedication to catching the serial killer brought them to Ed Humphrey. Ed was the main suspect, but they didn't actually have any evidence against him. Nonetheless, students returned to campus, and Ed was kept in a holding cell pending charges. It turned out to be quite a bummer for Ed, as he wasn't the killer. The case was cracked later when police discovered an abandoned campsite on campus, along with a cassette that had been recorded by the killer himself. This, combined with other evidence, brought the police to Danny Rowling. Danny had been arrested for armed robbery and had killed a family in Shreveport, Louisiana in November of 1989. He shot his own father in the face, moved to Florida, and killed 5 students for no reason. Ed Humphrey was finally released from prison, and Danny was sentenced to die in the electric chair in April of 1994. Number 7. Cooking rocket fuel. In February of 2022, a resident at a college dorm in Utah tried to make rocket fuel on his kitchen stove. Students do a lot of pretty wild things, but making rocket fuel is definitely a new one. 22 students ended up getting displaced, and the dorm was basically ruined. It happened at Brigham Young University on an ordinary Sunday afternoon. The resident, a 22-year-old student, told police after the incident he was trying to recreate something he saw online. Now, it wasn't for a school project. It was literally just to make rocket fuel for fun. The ingredients were found easily enough at the convenience store, but like most tutorials people find on the internet, the one for making rocket fuel is a lot more difficult than it seems. He was trying to make 5 pounds of the stuff when it overheated and fire erupted in the kitchen. Flames engulfed the walls and the ceilings, which triggered the sprinklers. The main floor was flooded. Firefighters were called, and there was massive damage done to the building. But in the end, it was really just a poor lapse in judgment. Nobody got hurt, and no charges have yet been filed against the student. It was just a science experiment gone wrong. What's the craziest experiment you've seen totally fail on campus? Let us know your stories in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe before the end of the video. Number 6. Tragic triple stabbing. In February of 2022, Chester County Police arrested a crazy woman from Philadelphia and charged her with stabbing 3 students from Lincoln University. The stabbings happened during a dorm room brawl that left 1 person dead. The killer is Nidira Smith, 39 years old. On the night of the attack, February 16th, she was allowed through the front gate and onto campus property because her brother studied there. What campus security didn't realize was that she had driven an hour and a half armed with a knife. She had every intention of showing up to Lincoln University to kill someone. Why? Nidira's brother had been involved in a fight with 3 other students. His sister, wanting to protect him, took it upon herself to try and murder all 3. A middle-aged woman with a kitchen knife against 3 students in their early 20s. She fatally stabbed Joanne Evans in the neck, then turned on Eric Dickerson and Clifton Walker. Eric and Clifton survived, but tragically, Joanne bled to death in the hallway. Number 5. The Bad Groundskeeper. A groundskeeper in North Carolina began stalking a student on October 25, 2021. It's enough for students to worry about grades, popularity, and the other students. They shouldn't have to deal with a crazy groundskeeper following them around. According to police, they were first notified when the student came forward saying she was worried that the groundskeeper was mentally unstable and dangerous. His name is John Philip Barkley, employed by Mitchell Community College. He started following the victim to her classes. He would follow her into the parking lot and beat on her car windows. He would even linger around the gazebo area outside where she studied and leer at her from the bushes. The terrified student even said that he once came up behind her, grabbed the back of her head, and tried to force his tongue in her mouth. And this guy's in his 60s now, far older than the student. In the end, it was lucky she spoke up when she did, before something even worse happened. The groundskeeper has since been arrested, and his 10-year-long tenure as ground maintenance supervisor at the college has been brought to an end. Number 4. The kidnapping of MADELYN Allen. On December 14, 2022, approximately 7:20 a.m., MADELYN Allen's parents received a text message saying, "I love you." The Snow College student's text was so strange and out of place that her parents knew something was wrong. It was too early, it was too random, and it just didn't seem like something their daughter would do. They contacted their daughter's cell phone provider, who traced the message to 87 miles south from the college campus MADELYN was supposed to be staying at. Something was amiss. MADELYN's parents contacted the authorities, who quickly learned she had gone missing the night before. A rapid investigation revealed MADELYN had met a man from a fetish chat room, who then kidnapped her and held her prisoner in his basement. When the police finally tracked MADELYN to the location and found her in the greasy, subterranean lair of a man named Brent Brown, she was naked and covered in coal dust. Brent Brown has been charged with a whole slew of crimes, including aggravated kidnapping. It's yet to be determined what kind of sentence he'll get, but probably a nice long one. Madeline had really just been looking for a friend, even if it was in a chat room. What she got instead was a date with a demon. Number 3. The horrible beating of Faith Hedgepeth. In 2021, a decade after the brutal and tragic murder of a University of North Carolina student, a man was arrested. His name is Miguel Enrique Salguero Olivares. According to the Chapel Hill Chief of Police, Chris Blue, Miguel has been charged with first-degree murder. The killing goes back to September 7, 2012. That was when a 19-year-old student, Faith Hedgepeth, was discovered dead in her off-campus apartment by her roommate. An autopsy showed Faith had suffered cuts all across her head and face, that her skull was fractured, and that she had been badly beaten on her limbs. The case went cold almost immediately. All authorities had was DNA and a vulgar message left behind by the killer on a takeout bag. It took 9 long years and 9 days for them to finally make the arrest. It was a long process of connecting the DNA to the family members of the killer. They then had to go through all relatives and sample their DNA until they found the right guy. But even now, the police refuse to release any additional information. They won't say what the motive was behind the killing or exactly how it happened. All we know is that at around 4:25 a.m. on the night of the 7th, Faith left her room for an unknown reason. When her roommates returned the next morning, she was back, but dead. Miguel, who had been free for almost a decade, had bludgeoned her to death. Number 2. A dangerous initiation. Adam Oakes was a 19-year-old student who wanted nothing more in life than to do good in school and to have his peers like him and take him seriously. Adam was so eager for people to take an interest in him that he agreed to participate in a highly dangerous initiation prank at his university. This prank would prove to be the end of Adam's life. He was blindfolded and ordered to drink a giant bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey supplied by the members of his Delta Chi fraternity. Shortly after, the Virginia Commonwealth University student got so drunk that he ran into a tree, hit his head, and then lay down to die. It was nobody's intention for Adam to get hurt. It was all just a terrible and regretful mistake, one the surviving fraternity brothers will never escape. When Adam hit his head, other members of his fraternity dragged him into the house and laid him on the sofa. When they checked on Adam the next morning, he wasn't breathing. After the autopsy, the medical examiner ruled Adam's death was caused by alcohol poisoning. His fraternity brothers had gotten him so drunk that it killed him. The hit he took to his head simply knocked him unconscious, so he wasn't able to plead for help as the alcohol ate at him from the inside. If his brothers had taken him to the hospital, he surely would have survived, but they didn't. They left him on the couch to fend for himself. Since the incident, the university has been a darker place. Adam's family is devastated. The fraternity has been permanently banned, and 11 members were charged with unlawful hazing of a student. They won't get any jail time, but in the end, living with this guilt for the rest of their lives may just be enough. Number 1. Mysterious death in New Orleans. In February of 2022, the New Orleans Police Department began an investigation into the mysterious circumstances of a young woman's death. Shortly before 7 o'clock in the morning on February 19th, the police arrived at a local hospital in New Orleans to find Kaya Whetstone deceased. Her cause of death is still under investigation and could take several more months to be determined. As you can imagine, her family is furious that the investigation isn't moving forward faster. Here's what we know so far. Hours before the student was brought to the hospital in critical condition, she got an Uber. She had been partying at the Mardi Gras parade, but nobody knows her whereabouts between roughly halfway through the party and when the driver dropped her off at the hospital. Nobody knows if it was the Uber driver that killed her, if she was attacked and then managed to get herself into the Uber. It's all up in the air right now. Authorities have said that there were no clear signs of injury when she showed up to the hospital, but that she was blue and her pupils were hugely dilated. Right now, the Uber driver is the main suspect. When police went to his last known address to question him, there was nobody home. He's missing, and the police were trying desperately to find him. He seems to be the missing piece in this tragic puzzle. Thanks for watching. What's the most devastating thing you've ever witnessed on a college campus? Let us know in the comments, and remember to subscribe to the channel and check out all our other awesome videos. See you soon. Bye!